What's going on? Welcome on in. We lost $95.30 trading Amazon and AMD. I'm going to dive into those trade recaps here in this video. So first things first, we'll start with Amazon, and then we have our AMD load up. Yep, there it is, 58.50 on AMD, and then we have 36.80 on Amazon. I'll start with Amazon and we'll get there. They're very similar trades, which is why I was originally not going to do them in the same. I've tried to veer away from putting too many things in one recap video, because I used to just recap like an entire day and cover a couple of things. Now I just do one trade, because usually there's less than a trade a day on average. But sometimes when there's multiple trades in a day and a lot kind of going on, and I have a lot of other stuff that I wanted to put up or whatever this coming weekend or this weekend, I just figured that I'd make these two because they're similar trades. So these are going to be two on the 5-minute time frame, so I'm going to just quickly tag them. They were bull flag. Actually, slight differences. Amazon was a standard bull flag break. AMD is slightly different, but I'll note that in my TradeZella logs here in a second. So give me a second for that. But let's cover Amazon first. We didn't lose much. 36.80, not a big deal. The risk on this account, we don't. As of right now, my sizing is that I don't lose more than $100 on these trades, okay? So this is very, very not much inside of that, and you can kind of see why, because the thing did get halfway to my target. It did. And it's actually a funny story. Let's just say, had this trade hit the target, at the time, I would have been past the funded or whatever threshold to become funded on this account. And I would have had the question in my head of, do I close out the other positions that I have open, the other swings, just reset the slate, get funded, and move on to tomorrow? If it worked. It didn't work though, so it's, here we are. But very, very beautiful. I mean, this is a great setup in my opinion. Very good. You had a very nice push, little consolidation right here. You broke out that consolidation on high volume. I will take this trade every single time that I see it. It just so happens that today it didn't work. And you can kind of see that if I get this trade if I see this setup happen 10 times, I might be right half the time. It might work half the time, but when they work, I'm going to make a lot more when they work than when they don't. So net, I'm going to be great. So that's why I take this trade, and I feel like that. What I decided to do here was I had my original take profit just under 187. I had my original stop under 185.50. But if we jump back to TradeZella, you'll notice that I exited at 185.75, which was 25 cents higher than my planned exit. Why was that the case? Well, because at the time, we pushed up, and I was looking over here at this volume node, and I was like, hey, if Amazon starts to break down under 185.75, that gets us into this volume gap, and there's a pretty good chance that my 150 is going to get taken out and that it will break down, and we had already made a thrust halfway to my take profit. So I'm like, I just don't want to get caught with a false breakout situation, which is exactly what ended up happening. And so I minimized the risk. Simple as that. I minimized the risk, and we lost less than we planned to lose. That's it. So that was Amazon. Let's now go back, or now let's jump over to AMD, which we lost 58.50. It's a very similar trade. If I jump over here to the setups, it was a bull flag setup. This is going to be slightly different, though. Let's see. Bull flag. I got to go bull flag trend line, actually. Let me go bull flag. I don't know if I have this in there. Bull flag trend line. Because I've been whenever I have a setup I haven't tracked these. I've tracked bear flag trend line breaks. Surprisingly, I haven't done a bull flag. So I've been wanting to try to do this and get some data on it. It's going to take time, but I've been wanting to get to that point. So you'll see the reason why. This also could kind of classify this. This could be justified as a regular bull flag trade, which is why I'll leave both tags there, and you'll see why. So I jump over to AMD. You'll see the trade here. It technically broke a new high a day. Really, what I'm looking for: big move, consolidation, and push. Now I can add something to this, because what I will say is that at the time that I got in this trade, which I got in right here in the breakout, I could have waited for the break of high a day, and had I did, I still would have gotten in the trade because it did break high of day. So I'm not going to get mad at myself for that, really. It's not really a big deal, but we had a wedge or like a trend line breakdown or a breakout, and then that's when I wanted to get in, and it had a little bit of a nudge of higher volume. So it looked good to me. I took the trade. I'll take this trade every single time, and I'm not going to complain about it. But the mistake that I did make here, which is something that isn't, how much of a mistake is it? You know, you got to decide. I think part of me was thinking to myself, hey, I'm extremely close to passing phase 2 of this, you know, funded account, whatever challenge. If this works, we're funded, essentially, was kind of my thought process, or very close to it, you know? And so I kind of was forcing, I was looking for a force. And you'll see in tomorrow's recap that actually didn't end with AMD, you know, and I have the recaps tomorrow coming out, so stay tuned for those. It actually did not end with AMD. So I think that I mentally was getting a little bit over my skis, and I was kind of letting the letting the numbers get to my head, whereas it really shouldn't. And it hasn't for months. It really hasn't for months because I haven't cared. But now that I know I'm close, and you know, I'm like, oh, I just want to kind of get there so that we can kind of get that over with, move forward, and then fresh slate, you know, kind of back to square one. That's kind of my mindset. Either way, though, still works. The reason why I say that is because the stock was up 7+% on the day. Not that necessarily means it can't go higher. It's up 7.5% on the day. And if I zoom out to the bigger time frames, this one doesn't really fit perfectly. I mean, this would have been up towards the top end, or right up into the top of the consolidation, right to the top of the volume node that we have right here. Is that the best spot to be getting in along after the stock's already up 7+%, knowing that these things don't usually go up 7+% in a day? Although above 167, you know, there's a volume gap. But then I'm like, well, if it gets there, that means it's got to go up like 10+% on the day. So yeah, it could happen. You can't assume that it won't, but you have to kind of be a little realistic at times. And I think that's where I left it, where I let myself kind of jump a little bit out over the skis. Because again, next piece of the puzzle, I mean, it's 11:30, 11:40 a.m. You know, we're approaching noon. Is that the best time to be playing breakouts? Probably not. Let's just be real. Probably not. So that's the recap on AMD. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go into mistakes, and I'm going to say it wasn't a late entry. It wasn't that I was impatient. It was overextended. I will say that. Let's see. Outside of that, is there anything else that I want to pull up? Enter early, fake out, FOMO. A little bit of FOMO. I'll log those two things because you know, just didn't need to be done, but also the setup was there. So I'm not, you know, $58. Okay, no big deal. If I had lost $100, maybe I'd be a little bit more mad about it, because this account sizing for a $10,000 account, I don't want to risk more than $100 on a given trade. So I look to make 150, 200-ish, you know, roughly. As of right now, it's my kind of sizing situation. So that's the recap. That's it on TradeZilla. I will have another trade recap out tomorrow that covers a little bit more of what happened after this AMD trade, which if you want to see where my head was at and where it is currently at, that would be a good trade recap to watch, because I think the biggest takeaway from these recaps is not that, like, you know, the strategy, here's what I do, copy it. No, because you can see that it's not like you have to, it has to make sense to you. And if it doesn't make sense to you, then, I mean, is it going to work for you? No. But maybe it's useful to modify or to understand how I'm thinking about things, my psychology, and all that stuff. So hope it's helpful. I'll leave a link to TradeZilla below, like always, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.